Welcome to Taking Action. I'm Chris Colombo. I'm excited. This is our 11th episode. We're going to go over last week's picks in the NFL, which was week 7. I'm going to give you my picks for week 8. And I got a couple stories for you after that. It'll be in that order. We'll be right back with you and looking forward to seeing you. Thank you. Okay, welcome back to Taking Action. I'm Chris Colombo. Anthony Conover, who I hail as the best stats man in the business. Don't get a
big head.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, it's mostly hair. Don't worry.
All right, let's get the unpleasant part out of the way early. Week 7 in the NFL for us was a disaster.
It was not good. It's definitely our worst week. But hey,
Okay, the original concept of this show, and still is to give it a smarter way to bet. People, and they are pushing parlays, multiple teams. My handicapping is not designed, even though I had a lot of luck early on with multiple teams. No. This week was not good. I had 2 wins and the rest were losses. We're going to stick to narrowing it down to my best picks. I will advisory lend my opinion if you just want to do what you want to do, but I would not advise you to bet the picks, except I'm going to give you the bets that I am going to make and that I think are the best bets on the board. Okay, there's been a lot of talk about that since legalized gambling has come into play, that there is conspiracies are being fixed. I am not a conspiracist because I was a victim of a conspiracy, and it helps you see clearly what truly are. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of coincidences. Would you agree?
There's been interesting things that's been happening.
Yes. One of the things and where the most differences have been made is pass interference is not reviewable. That is the number one thing that could change a game if it's a bad call. And we've seen many, because I don't have to be an analyst in a booth to tell if he was interfered with. I mean, the camera work and the technology is superior. And when they play it back, it's become more obvious than less. Secondly, roughing the passer, helmet to helmet, that's another 15-yard penalty on top of it. It was a good play. That is not a renewable play. We have seen more than less of them, and the majority of them have been very questionable, and there's a large percentages that have been, in my opinion, and I hate to say this, broadcasters and people within the NFL agree also. I have some statistics for you now that Anthony's very good at. He researches that, and you could go to sleep that he's accurate to 99.9% in what he gives you as a statistic. Just listen to this. Now, I've been on the other side of gambling, and I always used to pick 1 or 2, or some weeks none, and I did very, very well. I don't know with these kind of statistics and what's going on now to chance risking multiple teams is a viable even thought, even with parlays. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's been tough, especially this week. You know, what you were alluding to. So the public this week on teams that 70% of the money was on.
That means the majority of the money out of the 45 million people that bet that are going to wager $12 billion, this is the percentage that went on each of these teams.
So 84% of the public was on the Buccaneers -2.5. That lost. 83% on the Raiders -2.5. That lost. 80% on the Bills -7.5. That lost. 78% on the Packers -1. That lost. 77% on the 49ers -7. That lost. 76% on the Rams -3. That lost. 74% on the Browns, -3.5. That lost. 73% on the Lions. That was +3, and that lost. And 70% on the Seahawks, -8.5. That was actually the only one that actually won.
And we were on the other side of that.
Yeah, we were. That was the one that we were on the other side of. But
Also, I have noticed, and I have to tell you, my way, and I am going to get more in it today on how I choose a team, because I don't want to make it a mystery to anyone. A lot of people just say I'm throwing darts at the board. That's not true.
No.
And there's a lot of knowledge in here, and you can access it. What's most prevalent here that I've seen, my picks up until this week, but I think even my main pick went down. My main pick was
we didn't have a main pick this week.
No, I believe it was the Thursday night was Jaguars. We picked that.
Yeah, that was a good one. And then the other one,
because I analyzed that pretty good, because I said if the Jaguar quarterback is out, go with the Saints.
Yeah, and he played, and they killed him.
What?
Well, they didn't kill him. They almost did, and then the Saints came back, but we won it anyway.
Yeah, but the bottom line is we won. Then we picked what was the other team that stood up? That was Sunday night.
Yes, the Eagles.
The Eagles. And Monday night was a disaster. I don't know what happened to the 49ers. The ball bounced a serious way. When I make a pick, the obvious 17 variables is offensive line, defensive line, points scored, field goals missed, special teams, yards by runner, yards by receiver, home field advantage. You can figure them out for yourselves. They're not difficult. The difference of what I do is I take it to the next level. I look for, and always have looked for it, the team that comes back after a fumble from behind, a break in their rhythm, like a bad call, or a bad call that should have been reversed that wasn't, or a touchdown called back, or something silly. The majority of these teams were one score into the fourth quarter, and they had a lot of questionable situations.
I mean, yeah, you look at the Browns, they end up winning the game in general, but they lose.
And that was one of my picks, that I like the Browns as an underdog, but I don't like them as a favorite, and they were. But
I mean, in that one, you had a strip sack for the Browns, or for the Colts, I should say, when the Browns were going on their final drive to score, gets called back on an illegal contact. Listen, it's an iffy 50-50 call on that one. But then the next play, which, is what everybody's talking about, is the pass interference that was called. I mean, the ball landed 10 yards out of bounds.
Yeah, but not only that,
it's uncatchable.
Not that it landed 10 yards out of bounds. On top of it, it was a good 7 to 8 feet above the.
Oh yeah, I mean,
he was stretching to catch it.
The ball landed in the stands.
The ball landed in the stands,
and they still call pass interference. Everybody's saying it's uncatchable. That was in the news.
The tallest tight end in the business was always Harold Carmichael. He played for the Eagles, and I think he was 6'9" in his arm. So that way, it would take 3 Harold Carmichaels stretched out to get it. I mean, it actually landed and hit the top of the stands.
It bounced into the stands.
And they said it was not reviewable, and they called it. He was nowhere near it. I mean, after the play, you could watch the guy holding the ball.
Yeah, in the stands, he's holding the ball.
I mean, if the refs couldn't see that, I don't know what they could see.
Yeah. The Rams and the Steelers end up winning that game. They get a first down when Kenny Pickett was, I don't know, a half a yard to a yard short of the first down mark on fourth down. The Rams didn't have any timeouts left, so they couldn't challenge the play.
And that's probably one of the few plays that you could call they didn't have a flag to throw. But it was, when you watch it, he had it by over a yard and a half.
He didn't get the first down, and that ended the game basically. Because,
but when you saw, did he get the first down?
No. It was the Steelers. The Steelers were winning. Rams were looking for the comeback. Steelers ended up getting the first down on a QB sneak, sort of, and he wasn't even close to the first down.
No, Steelers. What was the other game where he got the first down and they called him away from him? It was one of them too.
I am not. Oh, well, on the Sunday night, which we did end up winning that game, so whatever. But there was a pass interference, no call on that, where he grabs his face mask
That's grabs his face mask.
Grabs his face mask. Should have been pass interference. Down the field, give the Dolphins a new set of downs. That didn't end up getting called either. There's just, and I mean, I know we don't talk college on here. I don't know if you saw it either.
Yes, I saw it.
There was an Iowa game. The refs, he returns a punt. The refs review it to see if he stepped out of bounds, and then they said that he called for a fair catch after the review. How is that even possible?
It's impossible. Can't happen.
Especially because if he did call for a fair catch, it would have been a flag on the play for returning it because you're not allowed to do that. So why was there no flag on the play?
Bottom line that I'm trying to make here is within the 2-minute warning, like the Steelers did not get that first down.
No, the Steelers should not have.
And they would have been in great field position, and they have a potent offense that could score.
Yeah.
And they were charging, and their defense held. And when the defense doesn't hold, it's momentum for the offense to come on the field. When the defense does hold, it's a boost for the offense.
Of course.
Especially, I think everything should be in the 2-minute warning reviewable if it's questionable.
Well, that was the only problem with the Steelers and the Rams. The Rams had no timeouts, so they can't challenge it, and it was above the 2 minutes. So it's not, reviewed by the booth. But even in that situation, they always bring out the markers. They usually go to review anyway to make sure the spot is correct.
Right.
And they didn't do that
either.
They
bucked protocol.
Yeah. I don't know why you wouldn't go to review.
Especially on a 1-score game for the game in under 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, because they got that and the game's over. So
yes. They decided the fate of that game on a very, very bad, inaccurate call.
And it was just a terrible spot. I mean, you watch the replay, it was right down the sideline too. So the side judge is looking directly at the play head on, and he's a yard short, and they give him a first down. The officiating is awful. I mean, they did.
Yes, but here's what I've noticed: the majority we're almost perfect on primetime games. Another thing I look into is, let's say the Jets are playing Kansas City. Televised, it's only showed in Jet region in New York. And in Kansas City, it showed in Kansas City. Primetime games Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night are nationally televised games. So usually as a handicapper, it's harder to pick those games because teams, it gives them an incentive to play because they're being watched by the whole nation. If they're being watched by the whole nation, nobody wants to look foolish. So good teams will play usually to their capacity, and lesser teams will come out and play hard to be seen. It'll make, if they're going to be traded, get a contract, going for their position. And not only that, who wants to look like a fool in front of the entire nation? So that was always harder for handicappers to pick because the team that really wanted it and gave all out for that game could win the game. I don't care what the team was. And we're at 87%, I believe, on Monday, Sunday night, and Thursday night.
I mean, I know this week we hit the Thursday and the Sunday game and then missed Monday, obviously.
Yes.
I'd have to go back and obviously watch all.
But it's our strongest suit so far on the hardest to handicap. Now, if there was something fishy in football, you wouldn't get away with it with the whole nation watching. Your largest viewers audience is them, which leads into your Super Bowl naturally. But that's one game nationally televised. Everybody's watching. So the way they're showcasing, and the other thing that is really significant, that the bye weeks make it difficult because you don't know what teams are losing their rhythm and what teams need the rest and what teams are working harder. I usually, like when you heard me say Parcells, I go back to where the coaches started with their coaching from. Like everything with the 49ers is pretty much the same schematic from Joe Walsh and that era of the 49ers. Belichick is a product of Bill Parcells. Before that, I think they were called the Baltimore Colts at the time. Now they're Indianapolis. So I even researched what a coach is going to do coming from his roots and the way he was trained and who he was brought up as like a mentor. So what I am seeing more and more is there are erratic things happen that would highly unlikely on coaching calls have been questionable. And I researched where they come from and what they've inherently done. And it's affecting the change of the game. So what we're going to do here, we're going to stick to less games where most of the variables are. If you people want my opinion, I will give it. I wouldn't bet it. But if you're going to put it in parlays and stuff like that, you do need multiple teams.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll give, your picks for sure, and then we're going to go through all the games and say which way we lean, whatever. Still analyze it, but stick to a fewer.
I'll say this: in all my years, and I turned 62 today. In all
You
my
guys gotta say
years,
happy birthday in the comments.
it does.
No, I'm saying everybody watching has to tell you happy birthday.
Well, that's all right. Listen, no, let's. You want to listen? Be successful, be healthy, and let's win. That would be the greatest birthday present you could give me.
Yeah.
Okay, but the point I was trying to make also is the bye weeks. The six teams we're taking out of week 7, which narrowed the field for you too, makes different variables when they come back, because who knows what's gone on in a week to the second week. Some teams get out of rhythm, some teams get into rhythm. So what I have to say right now is this week is going to be questionable, and I'm going to lean towards some of the teams that I think can come back and what they're going to do by their inherent mentors, coaching, playing, etc. It adds another variable into the equation, but it's insane to have 6 teams out for the bye week, and I think next week there's none.
Yeah, this week there's 0 buys.
0 buys.
And then I think there's 0 again in week 11. There's just the bye weeks are very weird this year.
It's discontinuity, constant change. Not good for handicapping. Okay, let's go on to this week's picks.
All right, so we're gonna go into the picks, and then obviously we're gonna start giving the totals as well.
Yes, we're gonna start with totals
because I know that later on
it's been so tumultuous that totals have been, the majority. I like unders. People like overs because they're always in the game when you bet. But I'd rather get the money inherently. Unders stand up more than overs. Go ahead.
I know you'll go into over under later on in the show.
Yes.
Thursday night, Buccaneers at the Bills. Started off as an 8.5-point spread. The Bills are now 8.5. No, it started off as 8. I apologize. It went to 8.5. The Bills are favored. The total is at 42 right now.
Okay. This is a game where the Bills are at home. They always do well at home. It's moved a half point. I don't think that's significant. 8.5 is not really that big of a deal. If it was 9.5 to 10, or 9 to 10, or 9 to 9.5, it's a bigger situation. 43.5 is not the highest total you'll have.
And that moved down to 42.
Yes, because they're giving 8.5. The Buccaneers defense is a good defense. Baker Mayfield, not consistent. Allen, even though he has not been consistent as named, I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in football.
Absolutely.
And I think when he comes to play, they're at home, a lot of points. I'm going to enjoy watching the game. I like the Buccaneers. I've always liked the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, even when his offensive line is doing it, he isn't. So one of the variables I look at, I was an offensive line coach for high school and younger for 31 years. That's the heart and soul of the team, and that is where that battle is won between offense and defense. Great players and great plays, but you do need a quarterback that could do, and he's not even scrambling or doing anything.
It's a quarterback league.
Go ahead. That's not completely correct. Go ahead.
We go to Sunday. Saints opened as 1.5-point favorites. The lines moved to Colts being a 1.5-point favorite. 41.5 was the total. It's now up to 43.5.
The total is not indicative of the line there. Usually, the higher the spread, the higher the total. Because if you're going to win by 14 points, that's 14 they're already giving somewhere. Interesting game to watch. I like the Saints as a battling underdog team. I think they're rebuilding and they're doing a good job. The Colts, they just lost a heartbreaker, but they battled like crazy. That game could go either way. The total, we're already telling you where the money trend is on the under. Good game to watch. But do you have any thoughts?
No, not on this one. I mean, two up in the air.
When nothing is out of whack. I compare my line to their line and where it's out of whack. Go ahead.
Jaguars at the Steelers. The Jags started off as a 1.5-point favorite. They're now 2.5-point favorites. And the over-under started at 41.5, moved to 42.
Well, 41 and a half point move is just means that people like the over on the game. The Steelers, when their defense shows up to play, they are, and they pretty much always show up playing, and they show up supercharged.
TJ Watt, probably the best
TJ Watt,
defender.
I don't like to say there's one player that makes a difference on that team. He does. His brother was the same way.
Oh, I don't know what they fed them as kids, but they did a hell of a job. All three of the sons went to the NFL.
Yes.
Derek Watt was a fullback for the Chargers for a while.
Yes. You put all those three on a team, you got a hell of a team. Inherently, I've always liked the Steelers. They were a dominating force in my younger years before I became a sports enthusiast. The Jaguars seem to be getting in a rhythm. They can put up points. Their defense is starting not to put up the statistics they're supposed to, but rising to the occasion. That's another thing I look at. There's statistics and defense, but there's defense when you need it, like RBIs in baseball when it's needed. That's another factor that the 17 variables in the NFL doesn't look at. I look more closely on must-do times. Jaguars have done some must-do times. The Steelers defense is a force to be reckoned with. I'd like to watch the game. I like the Steelers to watch them, but that's not a game I would bet or be confident in. Go ahead.
The Texans at the Panthers. The line opened up as the Texans -3. It has stayed there. For the over-under, it started off as 41.5. It's now up to 43.
What's the line?
-3 for the Texans.
But it hasn't moved.
Nope.
What they're saying is that's an accurate line. I think people are staying away from that game because you haven't seen the line move. But threes are tough to come off of because bookmaking houses, betting institutions could get middled. You could take 3.5, lay 2.5, buy points, and it lands on 3. You take both sides. Bookmakers don't like to come off 3. My opinion of that game is it's going to be a very, very good game because the Texans are in a rhythm. They need to win. But what's telling me and the trend that's with going, it seems like the sleeper team that has no shot is waking up. And every team in the NFL has one good team in them. The Texans are coming into more schedules. They're becoming a power. Sometimes bad teams look through good teams the next week. I was tempted to tell you last week my money dog, which I like to bet because at the amount of points it was significant to throw a few dollars. I was really going to tell you the Patriots with the money line. I had it on the tip of my tongue, but I don't want to tell you to make a bet like that. But that's a good bet because all you have to do is hit 1 out of 4 of them and you will still make money. But I was on the tip of my tongue. And then a controversial thing happened and the Bills end up winning. But that was
Patriots won that game.
Patriots, but yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was there.
So.
But funny things happen there.
They certainly do. This was the game that I liked that when we were talking about before. So just in my personal view, I like the Texans in this one with the -3.
Anthony likes the Texans. Those who believe in Anthony, if you want to wager your money, he's getting better at handicapping. I think he's assimilating some of the stuff. He sees what I do behind the scenes. He's taking the variables into account. If I was forced to bet that game, and I had to, which I'm never going to be, you're never forced to do anything. The Texans is the way to go. But I wouldn't be surprised this year because of what's happened. If I was presently making book this year and you gave me 80% out of 9 or 70% out of 9 of the 10 games, it would be more than I would make for the entire season year under very good conditions. So they're taking the money down. Go ahead.
Eagles at the Commanders. Eagles opened up as 6-point favorites. They're now 6.5-point favorites. And I believe the line, the over-under is at 43.5 right now. Opened at 47.
And they're telling you it's an under game, but that the Eagles have a voracious defense. Eagles and 49ers are probably the two most balanced teams in the NFL right now. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And I think they can beat you all different ways. You watch their games, it's the way a football game should be played. Commanders are a solid future team. Would you agree?
Yeah, they definitely got some pieces moving forward.
Yes. They're putting it together. I don't know if this year is their year. But I got to tell you, they're a good opponent.
Usually play the Eagles pretty tough in the past.
I agree. It's not a conference game, though. Division game.
It is.
It's a division game.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I keep thinking of them as the Washington Redskins. So I confuse what division they're in. Listen, division games, I always take the points. I'm not telling you to bet it. I will tell you the picks that I am going to take, and I am going to be specific on it. But in a division game, I think the Commanders have the pieces. The Eagles are a solid team, but division games, home field team, underdog is where I lean. But I don't give 2 out of the 3, which I usually have to in those games, offense, defense, special teams. I'm thinking that I give all 3 of them to the Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely.
But home field advantage in division game, they play tough.
They do.
And I think the Commanders are hoping to get a wild card, if not a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, the NFC isn't that much of a powerhouse besides those top teams, so everybody's trying to sneak in. The Rams at the Cowboys. Dallas opened up as a 5.5-point favorite. They're now 6.5-point favorites. As for the over-under, it started off as 44.5. It's now up to 45.5.
As we discussed, 5.5 is a deadline in bookmaking. Those games have always been the ones that you can't predict because mathematically there's no reason for them to be 5.5.
This is true.
I mean, I think it's going to be a great game to watch. I stay away from 5.5, so I've been.
Yeah, usually absolutely have. Patriots at the Dolphins. Dolphins started off as 12-point favorites. It's down to 9.5, and the over-under has stuck at 47. Tua's undefeated against the Patriots in his career so far. You know.
Listen, it's a division game. This is not home field underdog, but it's a lot of points. Dolphins inherently have not had the toughest schedule in football right now.
No, all their wins are, I think, if you combine the teams, they're like 8 and 20 something.
I don't. What you got to understand is you look, and I also look at who they're playing next week and the following week, and how they're doing in their division. I don't believe that people get pumped up to beat the Patriots.
Not anymore.
No, and what happens is that's what happened to the Bills. They thought they were looking right through them. Even coaches don't watch as much of the films as they should. And Belichick is a genius at watching your films, thinking what you're going to do. You're going to watch this week. The guy inherently has come from the best coaches when he was, I don't want to call him an underling, but an assistant coach. His mentors were the best there. He has a bag of tricks that is second to none. I take the points. I'm not advising to bet this game. I'm going to give you my picks, but these are my thoughts, and I hope it helps you.
Bill Belichick just got his 300th career regular season win.
Yes.
The Jets at the Giants.
The only other one to do it is
there's 2. There's
George S. Hallis.
That's one.
Papa Hallis, and who's the other one?
I believe it's Walsh.
Walsh, yeah, good coach. Vince Lombardi said because he didn't cross the field and hug and greet the other coach. He says the only human being I crossed the field, embrace, look at their eyes, and hug them as coach is George Hallis. And I'm a big Vince Lombardi advocate, and I appreciate the way he coached. He was a motivator, and he revolutionized football and evolutionized it. I've taken most of his clinics, and I believe in a lot of what he did. He was a natural-born coach.
We go to the Jets at the Giants. The Battle of New York, or New Jersey, technically. The Jets are a 3-point favorite. That line has not moved, and the over-under for that started at 39. It's down to 36.5.
Because of the Jets' defense, but they're still saying there's going to be some scoring in that game.
Yeah.
This is one of my picks. I'm from New York, and this is an interesting game, and this fits most of my criteria. I believe in the bye week, and I've watched, and everybody said I was nuts that the quarterback for the Jets would get better under Aaron Rodgers. He has. I watched the way he's taking handoffs, faking them, hiding the ball, having all time. Here's what I believe. I believe that Aaron Rodgers, I believe the Jets quarterback has potential. I've watched him on reactions. He's very good.
Yeah.
When he stops to think about it, I think is where he is. And that's what's called an inertia or quicksand in football, where you start, things go wrong and you start to sink or you hesitate. I think he's building more confidence. I believe this is one of the weeks that the bye week is going to help us because I believe Aaron Rodgers, the competitor he's in the stands or out, I think one of the things he agreed to do was come in and help this quarterback and groom who's under him. He's done it in every other team. Uh, they're laying 3 points. I believe there is no home field advantage there because they're both playing in the same stadium. I definitely give defense to the Jets.
Absolutely.
I definitely give offense to the Jets. I give the bye week off for the Jets. And I've also saw that the Jets recover from bad situations, fumbles, bad calls, interceptions, uh, safeties, you name it. The Jets recover quicker and better than the Giants. I think the Jets are going to come to play football. I think Aaron Rodgers used this week to work with the receivers and work with the quarterback. I think it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key word you used earlier too was confidence. Zach Wilson didn't have much last year. The team was wearing shirts with the backup quarterback. And this year he's just playing with more confidence. Looks good out there, in the past few weeks. And I think Aaron Rodgers, like you said, has a lot to do with
there
that.
Was a name that you all know in football, and this happened to a man by the name of Terry Bradshaw. I think he's all watch him now. That was my era. They had the same controversy. There was Terry Hanratty and Jefferson Street Joe Gilliam. They were starting one of the three each week in the thing, and because Bradshaw, they were against them, and the team was split. But in that year, Bradshaw, after the third or fourth game, where they weren't playing him any game, they were trying to see who they were going to use, consolidated, put that team together, and he was under the same thing that Wilson was under. Now, I'm not saying Wilson is Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw put him on any position in the field, he would persevere. But I think it's the same kind of thing. And I think Wilson will come around and he has the tools. He just does not have the experience. And what have I taught you guys in the financial business? You may have had the intelligence, experience, and the wisdom. I think that's all he's missing. I think he's had the bad experiences, and now with the wisdom to minimize it and bounce back from it, I like the Jets. That is my pick. Number one. Go ahead.
The Falcons at the Titans. The Titans opened up as a 1-point favorite. The Falcons are now 2.5-point favorites. As for the over-under, I believe it started at 36. It's up to 36.5 now.
Half point. Titans are one of the teams that I've always liked as an underdog, big underdog against the spread. When I say underdog, I mean getting the points and a home team. I didn't give them to you every week. I think I won one or two with them.
I'd have to look.
One or two with them. I didn't go with them on the losses. They're not reaching what they should do on their statistics. Even though their statistics aren't great, they're not even fulfilling that. They're choppy. They're playing who?
They're playing the Falcons.
The Falcons.
Some weird stuff with the Titans going on too right now too. They just traded away their safety to the Eagles.
Seems like they're stripping the team.
I believe so. And also, never heard of it in the NFL besides in the preseason. Their coach Mike Vrabel came out and said if Ryan Tannehill doesn't play this week, Will Levi and Malik Willis are both going to play in the game.
Repeat that.
The two other quarterbacks besides Ryan Tannehill are both going to play. I don't know if he's going to do one half.
That has never worked inherently. I think
that's
a decent team.
Those are the reports coming out. So the Titans are they're in a bad spot right now, to say the least. Just trade away their all-pro safety.
I'll tell you what that does do. That confuses the defense. Just like what I told you on an opposing team. If the quarterback is out after I give you a pick, that changes the whole schematic. They watch the films. They train for what they do. When they put a different quarterback in, it's a whole different set of plays, a whole different scheme, a whole different format, a whole different blueprint. And sometimes it surprises the team. It's like kind of like Rocky when he's fighting and then he switches back to southpaw. Go
The Vikings at the Packers. The Packers started off as a 1.5 point favorite. That went up to 2.5. And as for the over-under, it was 45.5. It went down to 43.
Okay. My second pick for the week is the Vikings getting the points. I'm not taking into consideration that they beat the 49ers. And I was on the 49ers. I'm not taking that consideration because every week is a different week. I think that line is wrong. My estimation says it's wrong. What I liked, what the Vikings showed me is they fumbled. 49ers got it when they were going good field position, came all the way down. They fumbled. The Vikings took it all the way, almost the distance of the field. The defense let them recover. So I look for teams that can recover after they've been punched in the face with a fluke. That could be an interception that was tipped. I don't mean throwing a dumb interception. I mean one where it's in the guy's hands and all of a sudden it's like a handoff to the other guy. We witnessed that. The defender got the ball and handed it off to the receiver. That happened in the
Called
in the
me
game.
right away.
Right, yeah. If it wasn't for the defender, the receiver could never catch the ball. Not one of those. I mean, when there's one where there's a tip or it goes through the hands, one that you were right there supposed to have it. What the Vikings have showed me that they can recover when they get punched in the face. They may get knocked down, but they get up again. So that is the deciding factor. The Ryan is wrong. I definitely give offense to the Vikings.
Yeah.
I definitely give defense to the Vikings with their blitzing. And their special teams is doing a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
Also, they can recover, and their coaching has been making smart calls.
Yeah, I like their coach, O'Connell.
It's not a matter of like. His calls are intelligent.
Yeah.
And he doesn't waste his flags, and he doesn't waste his timeouts.
Very time management, the underrated part.
And let me tell you something. I've never seen Christian McCaffrey be plugged, and to shut down that 49er offense, and not for that reason, you're not a bad defense.
No. They did a good job.
I think they're not ranked as good as they should be.
Browns at the Seahawks. Seahawks started off as 2-point favorites. They are now 3-point favorites. Over-under started 41.5. It's down to 40.
Total is irrelevant. It's a low total, not too low. Browns is one of the teams I like as underdog. I think they did pretty good last week, right?
Yeah, they squeaked out that win,
but they didn't cover the spread.
No.
I don't like them as favorite. I like them as underdogs. But last week, the officiating team did everything but join the team, take a handoff, blow the whistle, go down the field, don't let anybody touch them and score, in my opinion. So this game is suspect to me. I did not like them last week. They're one of the teams I like as underdog. They are underdog this week. But you ever hear of a horseshoe up your butt? They had it last week. Would you agree?
I absolutely would. The Chiefs at the Broncos. Chiefs started off as 8.5-point favorites. They are now 8-point favorites. Over-under was 44.5 up to 46.
Definitely, everybody likes the Chiefs that are last year's Super Bowl winner. People don't understand that people play harder against Super Bowl winners because it's like winning a Super Bowl. So you really get up emotionally to accomplish something. Russell Wilson is a competitor. I think people said I was a suspect of Russell Wilson. I like him. I like any short quarterback. They told me I was too short to play ball. That's a game I'm going to enjoy watching. Kansas City has shown me they don't go the extra to put up points. They're a big favorite. Broncos at home, the air is thin, very thin. They used to think Elway was a fourth quarter comeback quarterback, and taking nothing away from John Elway, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever lived, greatest comebacks, but you can't breathe in Denver come the fourth quarter. Defenses get tired. They're used to playing in it. I mean, some people actually practiced and worked out like I do in a sauna to get used to it. And thin air.
They wear the mask now.
Yes. I always like to take the points. This is not one of my picks. I'm just giving you my opinion. And hopefully and the way I handicap the air and Denver has always been a a thing to me, and it was like a hidden whatever. I mean, people recognize it, but
Hidden
it's there.
advantage.
The thin air does affect everything. It's going to be a good game to watch. I don't like to give up big points. What's your thoughts?
Chiefs played the Broncos a couple weeks ago, Thursday night. I think it was like 10.5 spread. At that point, the Chiefs were at home. I think they won by 11, so they barely covered in that.
Well, Don Shula said the toughest thing to do is to beat the same team twice in a season. Just putting that out there for you. A lot of the coaching and the things that were done in football came from Don Shula, his era, his assistant coaches. I hail him as one of the greatest coaches ever. Still the only coach undefeated to win a Super Bowl. And remember, it does not take, I think the season is now 19 games, 18 games. I don't even know. It was 17 last year.
It's 18.
18, but now it's 19 weeks, but 18 games.
It's 17 games now, 18 weeks. It used to be 17 weeks, 16 games.
Whatever it is, they added another week. Just remember, it doesn't take 18 wins or 17 wins to win a Super Bowl.
Correct.
You never know when you're going to let down. This could be that week.
The Bengals at the 49ers. 49ers coming off those two tough losses. 49ers started off as 6-point favorites. They're now 5.5-point favorites. As for the over-under, went from 46 to 45.
Who do you like there?
I mean, I was all in on the 49ers all season. They haven't been playing too well the last couple weeks.
But that happens.
Bengals coming off a bye. I mean, if I was forced, I think I'd pick the Bengals just because I get, 5.5. They have an unbelievable offense, so they can put up points.
49ers at home, 5.5. There's always a deadline. Anything can happen. I'm not forced. In my matchup, and the way I see it, still 5.5, 6. Still a lot of points. Take 3 away because the 49ers are home. That's the way the NFL, that's one of their variables. You lay 3 points for being at home. You get that edge or that handicap. You don't get it. You lay it. It goes to the other team to equalize for the time in handicapping in sports. I don't know if I would book it or I'd bet it.
Yeah, definitely a tough one there.
But I would pick a different high dog other than the Bengals at this point. But Burrows is that time to rest, and he did pretty damn good.
Yeah, well, their offense looked a lot better the last 2 weeks before that bye.
Go ahead.
Ravens at the Cardinals. Ravens started off as 7.5-point favorites. They're now 8.5-point favorites. As for the over-under, went from 43.5 to 44.
Ravens at the Cardinals. One of the teams I picked against big point underdogs, but not every week, was the Cardinals. Baltimore Ravens are definitely a solid football team. They take more chances than most. They do a lot of running. They do a lot of stuff.
Yep.
That doesn't allow for consistency. Running quarterbacks, you can't depend on when they're going to do it and when they're going to not do it. But I do look at when it's needed. And usually that's when he runs and he's got.
I mean,
yes,
he is very shifty. Probably the hardest tackle in the NFL to bring down.
Yes, yards after first contact. Another thing I look at in receivers is yards after they catch the ball, which is the extra effort, and I look at yards after first contact.
Yeah.
And I match it up differently than the NFL does. They just give the overall figure. The thing is, he runs when he needs it. He runs when you don't think he's going to run. He mixes it up well, but after contact, he's tough to bring it down.
Shifty, very shifty.
Very athletic.
Yeah.
And he runs smart.
The Bears at the Chargers. Chargers started off as 9.5-point favorites, down to 8.5. As for the over-under, it was 48.5, down to 46.5.
Chargers have always performed well on prime time on Monday nights.
This is the Sunday night game.
Sunday night, same thing, prime time. Yeah. They've always performed well on prime time. Not one of my picks. You got the 2 of my picks. A lot of points the Chargers to lay. I watched the Bears a couple weeks play good ball. It's a nationally televised game. Nobody wants to look stupid. But the Chargers have an offense that they open up from the Don Coryell years. They still implemented that same kind of format in certain plays. They kept it going. Anything could happen. That's going to be a very good game to watch. There might be some surprises from the Bears, or they may blow them out. I don't know. It's a nationally televised game. Except for defense, I give every quality to the Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers give up the most pass yards in the NFL.
Yes.
Monday night, the last game of the week, Raiders at the Lions opened up at 7.5, went up to 8 now. As for the over-under, it was 49.5. It's now 46.5.
Well, listen, this year, like all years, I didn't pick that many big favorite points. And when I did, was not successful. I don't know if you want to say conspiracy or whatever. My best range when it goes from 3 to 3, 4 to 4, 5 to 5, like that, or big underdogs. I think it's going to be a nice game to watch. I think the Lions are one of the best teams in the NFL. Yeah, they're fun to watch on top of it. The Raiders don't have Garoppolo. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. He's been playing inconsistent, but he could be injured.
Yeah, I know he hurt his back against the Patriots, which is why he was out last week. I would imagine he's probably going to be out this week as well. So
the other thing is, pro football has always had an injury report. The only reason you'd give an injury report is for bettors. That's why you give an injury report. So betting in NFL and college football, and I've stayed away from college this year because they've been paying the players or compensating them. And that has changed the game.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm of the opinion it's going to be a great game to watch because the Raiders always come to play on Monday nights, historically. And the Lions are a very, very good team. That is 8, and I think it's going to go up even more as a lot of points. So I'm watching it. You do what you want. That might be an interesting teaser bet.
That is all. That is all the games for week 8. And good luck to everybody.
Once again, Anthony Conover giving you his best, me giving you the benefit of my experience. What are my 2 picks this week?
We would have the Vikings plus 2.5 and the Jets -3. My pick, if anybody wants it, is the Texans -3 against the Panthers.
I'll say if anybody wants it, they choose to listen to it. I'm not saying you have to bet my picks. My analysis will make you smarter each week or more knowledgeable. I mean, I don't like to use the word smart. I don't think there's any dumb people. I don't think there's any smart people. I just think there's people that exercise common sense. And those that have a little more difficult time, but we'll all work together. I take it to its simplest form. That is my analysis for this week. I am sorry about last week, but there are no excuses. There's just
solutions and resolutions.
All right, let's salute it and resolute it. Thank you very much. I will be back with 1 or 2 interesting stories. And this is Chris signing off. Welcome back to Taking Action. I'm Chris Colombo, and I have an interesting dog story, maybe an underdog story. When I was around 6 years old, my father brought me home a miniature collie, beautiful dog. I loved the dog. The family loved the dog. The dog was just terrific. And interesting way he got his name was when I got the dog. And regulars in my house was a gentleman by the name of Jonach. Another gentleman was by the name of Butch Gougier. We called him Butch Gougier because he called you everything was Gougier. And if he was telling you something, he would say, Gougier, you got to understand. And Gougier, you don't know this. Gougier, you don't know that. But he did that with everybody, so he became Butch Gougier. Jonach was his name because it was takeoff of his last name. But they were always around, and they were with my father from his youth. Not youths, youth. So I have the dog, and I go over, and I say, Jonach, I says, what do you think I should name this dog? He says, oh, Chris, I'm jammed up, not now. So I look at him, so I go over to Butch Gougier. I says, Butch, He says, Gougier, what is it? I says, I just got this dog. He says, yeah, it's adorable. I'm all jammed up right now. He says, I'm getting destroyed betting horses. I use the rent money. I got to pick a winner. Well, walking away, I says to myself, and I didn't know what jammed up meant. I thought they were telling me I named the dog Jammed Up. So whenever we called the dog, which was Jammed Up, it was funny. Don't say that. I'm making a bet or whatever. Italians inherently love to gamble. I do. I did. I will. But that was one for a story. So maybe when I was all jammed up, underdogs got me out. So that's my interesting little story and tidbit for the time. Jammed up wherever you are. I hope you with Joe Notch and Butch. They're no longer with us, and my dad too, and my mom. You were great here. I hope you're great there. Thank you for watching Taking Action with Chris Colombo. Every week you'll get a little interesting story because the stories of my life were unique. I will see you next week. We have a lot of interviews coming up that we are filming, and one today. We got Jadakiss coming on, who's a lifelong and I consider a family member. We got Al Sapanzaro coming. He's been in over 250 movies. We've shot that one. I'm shooting one today with a gentleman by the name of Wade. He's had a very interesting turn of circumstances where he was waiting 5 years. He shot someone in his house. You will hear his story. It's all over TikTok now. I'm excited to bring you, and I'm giving you enough time to absorb and appreciate the interviews we put up. But our main thing here is taking action, and let's take it and give it properly. Thank you.